at that time, I wanted to do something different. You know, when you lose your job, especially as a lot of people have done over the, with the financial crisis, for example, you start to ask yourself, what do you want from your life?
It was the loss of his job that pushed Ndesandjo to a life in China. This was well before his brother ascended to the presidency. He decided he needed a fresh start.
Because has a lot of... What I needed about 9 years ago was to find a place where I could start new, where I could take a risk, and follow the things which felt important to me, which centered around art and charity and a little business.
Ndesandjo sold his house, got rid of his car in America, and attended a US university program in which 9 teachers, including him, came to the southern Chinese city Shenzhen to teach English.
Shenzhen is a city that's built on dreams. Deng Xiaoping came to Shenzhen about over 30 years ago on a boat. There were just maybe some villages, and there were some birds maybe flying, and some marshland. And he said, let's build a city here. And he built that city, and right now it's a metropolis of over 10 million people.
During the very first weekend in Shenzhen, he visited a local orphanage, which aroused his deep concern for children.
And there was a little baby inside. And this little baby, I touched its hand with my finger, and it grasped my finger, and it would not let go. I tried to pull my hand away, it wouldn't pull its hand away. Its big black eyes looked up at me, and at that moment I knew that that baby was not thinking about whether I'm an American or yellow or white or pink or red or orange. It just wanted love. And at that moment, there was a connection.
With his piano skills, Ndesandjo started to teach the orphans there to play piano every weekend, and he kept doing that for years.
Sometimes I go to teach kids in the orphanage, down the street, and I say, oh gosh, I want to sleep. I want to have a cup of coffee. I don't want to go. I don't want to teach the kids. I don't feel like it today, I just want to relax. But I go because it's the right thing to do. And afterwards, after I've met the kids and I've taught, I feel really good.
After his orphanage volunteering, Ndesandjo embraced charity work. He travelled throughout the country giving charity concerts, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for disadvantaged children, as well as victims of the Sichuan earthquake. In 2009, Ndesandjo went back to Kenya, along with the American Chamber of Commerce in South China, bringing arts and sports supplies as well as financial support to slums. A few months ago, he was working alongside the Sheen Hock Foundation in Chengdu, raising $300,000 for kids suffering from amblyopia, a serious eye disorder. He now has a specific goal in his charity career.
In terms of the things that are important, one of the things which I'm trying to do right now, and I hope maybe some listeners might be able to help with that, is to help a young girl who has got heart failure. And I want to be able to, maybe we can show a photo of that when we get a chance. Her name is Qian Baohui. Right now, I think that if people around the world, we all have children, we all have kids, and we all want to help children.
Ndesandjo met 3-year-old Qian Baohui 5 months ago during a visit to Angel Mum, a Beijing-based NGO that cares for and raises money for chronically and terminally ill children. He learned how Qian Baohui was suffering with a serious heart disease. The doctor has warned that even a small infection, such as a lung infection, would probably cause her heart to fail.
This kid has hung on for 3 years through different operations. We haven't been able to find a doctor yet for her, who can help her in China.
Ndesandjo is still trying to evoke public attention to Qian's plight. He asked his friend in the US for help and put Qian Baohui's story, as well as Angel Mum's team, on his own website, markobamandesandjo.com, and his Weibo, a Chinese internet social network.
But we're hoping that maybe she could be taken to the United States or someplace where she can get an operation to save her life. And this is something which I think the world, all these three places we talked about, might be able to help.
Fascinated by traditional Chinese calligraphy and Tang Dynasty poetry, Ndesandjo has spent about 4 hours a day over the past 9 years studying and researching Chinese language and culture. He's among a handful of Westerners in China who can appreciate and skillfully demonstrate traditional Chinese calligraphy, an ancient art with a history of more than 3,000 years.
When you write calligraphy, it's almost like dancing. And it's a wonderful way in which you can sort of understand yourself. And great painting and great culture, like some of the great paintings of the Chinese tradition, were not so much to express something like a photograph, but to encourage this sense of meditation, this sense of peace. The characters on the right are basically saying to my mother. You know, there's a saying in Chinese, right, which is very important, 父母慈，人事本也. You know, basically saying that at the end of the day, your mother or your father, you know, your family are the people that most you learn from. It's about going back. And so I was trying to express a little bit of that with this. So that I want my family in Kenya to also realize the importance that no matter where I am, I love them.
Many of Ndesandjo's works centre on one poet from the Tang Dynasty, Li Shangyin. He's Ndesandjo's favourite Chinese poet.
I will take two lines from a poem by Li Shangyin, which basically, the line goes, I think it's 夕阳无限好 自是今黄昏. The first line basically says, the sunset is perfect. The sunset is so beautiful. But the second line says, but only for an instant. Only for an instant. And what this expresses is that the meaning is that in life, the most beautiful moments, the most precious moments, they last only for an instant. But you have to, like the sunset, you have to wait until the right moment, and that is the moment which makes your life worth living.
Ndesandjo says his identity, which is connected to both Kenya and America, gives him openness in his mind. He calls himself a global citizen, and bridging cultural divides is a constant theme for him.
I'm setting up a foundation in Hong Kong to encourage cultural exchange. A foundation which will promote cultural exchange between America, China, and also Kenya. I want more people to understand each other's cultures.
In 2009, Ndesandjo published a semi-autobiographical novel, Nairobi to Shenzhen, both in English and in Mandarin, in which lots of Ndesandjo's unique cultural experiences can be found. Ndesandjo also continues to do what he calls a little business. His previous experience as a senior manager in Lucent, Nortel and other companies helped him set up an internet consulting company called World Nexus, focusing on the business communication between American and Chinese companies. His life is in China. Ndesandjo says although he doesn't know what the future holds, for now Ndesandjo is quite happy in Shenzhen.
When I came to China is the sense of family. This is something which is very strong here. And it taught me about the importance of it. And I went back and I rediscovered my roots in many ways, in Kenya and of course in America.
Unlike his brother, Ndesandjo shows more interest in culture rather than politics. When talking about China, he said he's looking forward to the country's future development.
China has found and is finding its voice. You know, people need to be a little bit patient with China because some people, you know, it's sometimes a little easy to compare China to developed countries and say it should be exactly the same. I think there's some points, there's some truth to that. But in some areas, people need to understand that this is a country which in just 30 years has moved in incredible steps. It's moving in the right direction, but it needs to be given a chance to develop and to find its own identity